Hey there, horror fans. Welcome back to Silent Screams, where we dive into the darkest corners of real-life nightmares. Tonight, we're exploring a tale that'll make you think twice about those innocent-looking school halls. So, dim the lights, grab your favorite blanket, and prepare to be chilled to the bone as we uncover the terrifying truth behind whispers in the hallways, chilling true school terrors revealed. I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here I am, hands shaking as I type these words. It all started during my senior year at Evergreen High, a seemingly normal school nestled in the heart of a small town. You know the type, everyone knows everyone, and nothing exciting ever happens. Or so we thought. It was a crisp autumn evening, and I had stayed late to finish up some work for the school newspaper. The sun had long since set, casting long shadows through the empty hallways. As I packed up my things in the computer lab, I heard it, a faint whisper, barely audible, coming from somewhere down the corridor. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing off the lockers. No response. I shrugged it off, figuring it was just the old building settling. But as I stepped into the hallway, a chill ran down my spine. The air felt heavy, almost electric, like the calm before a storm. I quickened my pace, eager to get out of there. That's when I saw her, a girl, probably a freshman, standing at the far end of the hall. She was facing away from me, her long dark hair obscuring her face. "Hey, are you okay?" I asked, taking a few steps closer. "The school's closing soon. Do you need help finding your way out?" Slowly, she turned her head. My blood ran cold. Where her face should have been, there was only a swirling mass of shadows, 2 pinpricks of light where her eyes should be. I blinked hard, convinced I was seeing things. But when I opened my eyes, she was suddenly right in front of me, her icy fingers wrapping around my wrist. "Help us," she whispered, her voice like rustling leaves. "They're coming." I yanked my arm away and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping for air in the school parking lot. As I looked back at the building, I swear I saw dozens of faces pressed against the windows, their eyes pleading and full of terror. The next day, I convinced myself it was just my imagination running wild. I mean, ghosts aren't real, right? But as I walked into school, something felt off. The usual chatter in the hall seemed muted, and everyone looked pale and on edge. In homeroom, I overheard a group of students talking in hushed tones. "Did you hear about Jake?" one girl whispered. "They found him in the gym this morning, just staring at the wall. He won't speak, won't even blink. It's like he's seen a ghost." A chill ran down my spine as I remembered the girl from the night before. Had Jake seen her too? Throughout the day, more stories emerged. Students reporting strange noises from empty classrooms, objects moving on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to permeate the entire school. During lunch, my best friend Lily pulled me aside, her eyes wide with fear. "Something's wrong, Alex," she said, her voice trembling. "Last night, I was walking past the old science wing, you know, the one they closed off after the fire. I swear I heard screaming coming from inside. And not just any screaming. It sounded like they were in agony." I felt my stomach drop. "Lily, we need to investigate this. Something's happening in our school, and I think it's been going on for a long time." That night, we snuck back into the school, armed with flashlights and a video camera. The halls were eerily quiet, our footsteps echoing loudly in the emptiness. As we approached the old science wing, the air grew colder, and I could have sworn I heard faint whispers coming from behind the sealed doors. "Maybe this wasn't such a good idea," Lily whispered, her flashlight beam shaking. Before I could respond, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. We both jumped, our hearts racing. The scream seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Hello?" I called out, my voice cracking. "Is someone there? Do you need help?" Suddenly, the lockers around us began to shake violently, their doors flying open and slamming shut. Papers and books swirled around us in a frenzied tornado. And there, at the end of the hall, stood the girl I had seen the night before. But this time, she wasn't alone. Dozens of ghostly figures materialized behind her, their faces contorted in anguish. "They're coming," the girl repeated, her voice now a chorus of whispers. "You must stop them before it's too late." "Stop who?" Lily cried out, clinging to my arm. "What's happening?" The girl pointed a translucent finger towards the sealed doors of the science wing. "The experiment," she hissed. "It never ended. They're still there, trapped between worlds. And now, they want out." A deafening roar filled the air, and the sealed doors began to buckle and warp. Something was trying to break through from the other side. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Lily's hand and sprinting towards the exit. As we burst out of the school, gasping for air, we looked back to see a sickly green light pulsing from every window. The ground beneath our feet trembled, and a low, inhuman moan seemed to emanate from the very walls of the building. "What do we do now?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I stared at the school, my mind racing. Whatever was happening inside those walls, it was clear that it was far from over. The ghosts, the experiments, the trapped souls, it was all connected somehow. And something told me that we were now a part of it, whether we liked it or not. "We need to find out what really happened in that science wing," I said, my resolve strengthening. "Whatever it was, it's the key to understanding what's happening now. And maybe it's the key to stopping it." As we stood there, watching the school pulse with an otherworldly energy, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The whispers in the hallways had become a deafening roar, and the true horrors of Evergreen High were only just beginning to reveal themselves. Little did we know, our investigation would lead us down a dark path, uncovering secrets that had been buried for decades. The history of our town, the mysterious disappearances over the years, the odd behavior of certain teachers, it was all connected to whatever malevolent force was awakening within the school. Over the next few weeks, Lily and I delved deeper into the mystery. We scoured old newspapers, interviewed former students, and even broke into the school's sealed records room. What we found chilled us to the bone. Apparently, back in the 1960s, a group of scientists had been conducting secret experiments in the school's basement, trying to open a portal to another dimension. Something went horribly wrong, and an explosion rocked the school, killing dozens of students and staff. The official story was that it was a gas leak, but the truth was far more sinister. As we pieced together the puzzle, strange things began happening to us. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find shadowy figures standing at the foot of my bed, whispering in languages I couldn't understand. Lily started having vivid nightmares of being trapped in a maze-like laboratory, pursued by grotesque creatures that were neither fully human nor fully something else. One night, as we were leaving the library after another research session, we ran into Mr. Thompson, our history teacher. There was something off about him. His eyes seemed to glow with an unnatural light, and his smile was just a little too wide. "Burning the midnight oil, are we?" he asked, his voice dripping with false cheeriness. "You two seem very interested in the school's history lately. Anything, in particular, you're looking for?" I felt a chill run down my spine. "Just working on a project, Mr. Thompson," I lied, trying to keep my voice steady. He leaned in close, and I caught a whiff of something acrid, like burning chemicals. "Be careful where you stick your noses," he whispered, his breath icy on my ear. "Some doors, once opened, can never be closed again." As he walked away, Lily and I exchanged terrified glances. It was clear that whatever was happening at Evergreen High, some of the staff were in on it. The next day at school, things took an even darker turn. During assembly, the principal was giving a speech when suddenly, his eyes rolled back in his head, and he began speaking in a language none of us recognized. The lights flickered, and for a brief moment, I swear I saw the world shift. It was like looking at reality through a cracked lens, with glimpses of impossible geometries and writhing tentacles just at the edge of vision. Panic erupted in the auditorium. Students screamed and rushed for the exits, but the doors slammed shut on their own. As chaos reigned, I noticed a group of teachers calmly making their way towards the stage, their eyes glowing with that same eerie light we'd seen in Mr. Thompson. "We need to get out of here," Lily shouted over the din, tugging at my arm. But I couldn't move. My eyes were fixed on the stage, where the principal's body was beginning to change. His skin bubbled and stretched, his limbs elongating at impossible angles. And behind him, in the air itself, I could see a tear forming, a rip in the very fabric of reality. Through that tear, I caught glimpses of a world beyond our own. A place of madness and chaos, where the laws of physics seemed to be more like gentle suggestions. And something was coming through, something ancient and hungry. As the first tentacle slithered its way into our world, I knew that the true horror was only just beginning. Whatever had been started in that basement laboratory decades ago was finally coming to fruition. And somehow, Lily and I were caught right in the middle of it all. The whispers in the hallways had become a deafening roar, and the chilling terrors of Evergreen High were about to spill out into the world. But our story doesn't end here. In fact, this is just the beginning of a nightmare that threatens not just our school, not just our town, but potentially the entire world. The chaos in the auditorium was complete. Students were screaming, climbing over each other in a desperate attempt to escape. But escape seemed impossible. The doors remained sealed, an invisible force keeping them shut tight. I grabbed Lily's hand, my mind racing to find a way out of this nightmare. "The vents!" I shouted over the cacophony. "We might be able to crawl through them." We pushed our way through the panicked crowd, heading for the back of the auditorium where I knew there was a large air vent. As we moved, I couldn't help but look back at the stage. What I saw made my blood run cold. The thing that used to be our principal had fully transformed. It was now a writhing mass of tentacles and eyes, its body pulsating with an otherworldly light. The tear in reality had widened, and more things were crawling through. Creatures that defied description, with too many limbs and not enough faces. The group of teachers who had approached the stage were now prostrate before these monstrosities, chanting in that same unknown language. We reached the vent, and I quickly worked to remove the cover. As I did, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I spun around, ready to fight, only to find Jake, the boy who had been found catatonic in the gym. "You can't stop it," he said, his eyes vacant. "They've been waiting for so long. The door is open, and they are hungry." Before I could respond, Jake's body began to contort. His skin rippled, and I watched in horror as his mouth opened impossibly wide, revealing rows upon rows of razor-sharp teeth. From the depths of his throat, a low, guttural growl emerged. "Go!" Lily screamed, pushing me towards the now open vent. We scrambled inside just as Jake, or whatever was wearing Jake's skin, lunged at us. The sound of claws scraping against metal echoed through the vent as we crawled as fast as we could. We emerged in an empty classroom, the sounds of chaos muffled but still audible. Lily was shaking, tears streaming down her face. "What's happening, Alex? What were those things?" I shook my head, trying to make sense of it all. "I don't know. But I think this is what the experiments were about. They were trying to open a door to another world. And now they've succeeded." A bone-chilling scream from somewhere nearby jolted us back to reality. We had to keep moving. As we cautiously made our way through the halls, the school seemed to be changing. The walls pulsed with an organic rhythm, and I swear I saw eyes blinking at us from within the lockers. We turned a corner and came face to face with Ms. Rivera, our English teacher. Relief washed over me for a moment until I saw her eyes, pitch black, with no whites visible. "My dear students," she said, her voice oddly distorted. "Why run? Don't you want to be a part of something greater? To transcend your limited human existence?" As she spoke, her skin began to bubble and melt, revealing a mass of writhing tentacles beneath. We turned and ran, the sound of her inhuman laughter echoing behind us. We found ourselves in the library, barricading the doors with heavy bookshelves. As we caught our breath, I noticed something odd about the books. The titles were changing, morphing into unreadable symbols that hurt my eyes to look at. "Lily," I whispered, "I think I know what we need to do. We need to find a way to close that portal. It's our only chance." She nodded, her face pale but determined. "But how? We don't even understand what's happening." I thought back to everything we had uncovered in our research. The original experiment. It must have been in the basement. If we can find whatever device they used to open the portal, maybe we can reverse it. As if in response to our plan, the library began to shake. Books flew off the shelves, swirling around us in a vortex of paper and ink. The words on the pages came alive, crawling across our skin like insects. I swatted at them, trying to focus. "We need to get to the basement," I shouted over the noise. "Now." We pushed through the storm of books, fighting our way to the door. The hallway beyond was almost unrecognizable. The floor undulated beneath our feet, and the walls dripped with a viscous, glowing substance. In the distance, we could hear the agonized screams of our classmates mixed with the triumphant roars of the invading entities. As we descended deeper into the school, the air grew thick and oppressive. It felt like we were breathing in molasses. Strange symbols appeared on the walls, pulsing with an eerie light. I recognized some of them from our research, ancient runes associated with forbidden knowledge and cosmic horrors. We finally reached the basement door, only to find it locked. I was about to suggest looking for another way when Lily let out a gasp. I turned to see her staring at her hands, which were changing. Her fingers were elongating, becoming almost tentacle-like. "Alex," she whimpered, "I can hear them. In my head. They're promising so much. Power. Knowledge. Immortality." I grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at me. "Lily, listen to me. That's not you. Fight it. We're so close. We can stop this." For a moment, I thought I had lost her. Her eyes began to cloud over, turning that same pitch black we had seen in Ms. Rivera. But then she blinked, and I saw a flash of recognition. "The key," she said, her voice strained. "Check my pocket. Quickly." I reached into her jacket pocket and found a small, ornate key. It seemed to vibrate in my hand, almost as if it were alive. Without hesitation, I shoved it into the lock. The door swung open with an ominous creak. The basement was a scene straight out of a nightmare. The walls were covered in pulsating flesh, veins of that glowing substance running through them like rivers of fire. In the center of the room stood a massive machine, a twisted amalgamation of gears, crystals, and what looked disturbingly like human bones. And there, operating the machine, was Mr. Thompson. But he wasn't human anymore. His body had split open, revealing a mass of tentacles and eyes. When he spoke, it was with 1,000 voices. "Ah, our final guests have arrived," he said, his tentacles writhing in what I could only assume was excitement. "You're just in time for the grand finale. The merging of worlds, the ascension of humanity to a higher plane of existence." I felt a surge of anger. "You're insane. You're destroying everything." He laughed, a sound that made my ears bleed. "Destruction? No, my dear boy. This is creation. The birth of a new reality, one free from the constraints of your limited human perspective." As he spoke, the machine began to hum louder. The Terran reality that we had seen in the auditorium was forming here too, growing larger by the second. Through it, I could see impossible landscapes and horrifying creatures, all clamoring to break through into our world. I looked at Lily, saw the determination in her eyes despite the changes still happening to her body. We nodded at each other, a silent agreement passing between us. Without warning, we charged at Mr. Thompson and the machine. What followed was a battle that defied description. We fought with everything we had: fists, improvised weapons, and in Lily's case, her newly formed tentacle-like appendages. Mr. Thompson's inhuman body was incredibly strong, but we had the advantage of human ingenuity and desperation. As we fought, I noticed a pattern in the machine's operation. There was a sequence, a rhythm to how it was opening the portal. If we could disrupt that sequence... "Lily!" I shouted. "The crystals. We need to change their alignment." She understood immediately. While I kept Mr. Thompson distracted, Lily used her transformed hands to reach into the machine, rearranging the glowing crystals at its core. The hum of the machine changed, becoming erratic. Mr. Thompson let out a roar of fury. "No. You don't understand what you're doing. The power, the knowledge, it could all be ours." But it was too late. The portal began to fluctuate wildly, pulling everything towards it. The flesh-covered walls of the basement started to peel away, sucked into the vortex. Mr. Thompson's monstrous form was drawn in, his screams of rage turning to terror as he disappeared into the chaotic swirl of realities. Lily and I held on to each other, anchoring ourselves to a sturdy pipe as the portal continued to collapse in on itself. The pull was incredible, and I could feel my grip starting to slip. "Alex," Lily yelled over the deafening roar of the collapsing portal, "I don't think we're going to make it." I looked at her, saw the fear in her eyes, but also the acceptance. We had done it. We had stopped the invasion, saved our world. But at what cost? As my fingers finally gave way and we were pulled towards the shrinking portal, I closed my eyes, bracing for whatever awaited us on the other side. But the impact never came. Instead, I felt a sudden stillness, a profound silence that was almost deafening after the chaos we had just experienced. Slowly, cautiously, I opened my eyes. We were back in the school auditorium. But it was normal. No writhing tentacles, no cosmic horrors. Just rows of chairs and a simple stage. Lily was beside me, her body back to its human form. We looked at each other in disbelief. Did we do it?" Lily whispered, her voice hoarse. Before I could answer, the doors to the auditorium burst open. Students and teachers poured in, all looking confused and disoriented. I saw Jake among them, looking perfectly normal and very much alive. As the room filled with the chatter of confused voices, I noticed something on the stage. It was a small tear, barely visible, shimmering in the air like a mirage. As I watched, it sealed itself, leaving no trace of the horrors we had witnessed. The principal, the real, human principal, took the stage, calling for calm. He explained that there had been a gas leak, causing mass hallucinations. It was a perfectly rational explanation, one that everyone seemed eager to accept. But Lily and I knew the truth. We had seen behind the veil of reality, glimpsed the cosmic horrors that lurked just beyond our perception. And we had stopped them, for now. As we sat there, listening to the principal's reassurances, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't truly over. The experiments, the portal, the entities, they were still out there, waiting. And someday, they might find another way in. I looked at Lily, saw the same knowledge reflected in her eyes. We had survived, but at what cost? The innocence of not knowing, the blissful ignorance of a world that made sense, that was gone forever. As we filed out of the auditorium with our classmates, I realized that our journey was far from over. We had a responsibility now, a duty to be vigilant, to watch for signs of the horrors we had faced trying to break through again. The whispers in the hallways may have been silenced for now, but I knew they would never truly be gone. They would always be there, just at the edge of hearing, reminding us of the fragile nature of our reality and the cosmic terrors that wait patiently in the spaces between worlds. And so, as we stepped out into the sunlight, I made a silent vow. Whatever came next, whatever horrors might try to invade our world, Lily and I would be ready. We had faced the unimaginable and survived. We had peered into the abyss and come back changed, but stronger. The school bell rang, signaling the start of another ordinary day. But for us, nothing would ever be ordinary again. The true terrors of Evergreen High might be hidden once more, but we would always know the truth. And we would always be watching, waiting, ready to face whatever nightmares might come. As we walked to class, I caught a glimpse of our reflections in a window. For just a moment, I thought I saw something shift beneath our skin, a reminder of the changes we had undergone. But then it was gone, leaving me to wonder if it had been real or just a trick of the light. One thing was certain, the story of Evergreen High was far from over. And whatever chapters came next, Lily and I would face them together, guardians of a secret too terrifying for the world to know. The bell rang again, urging us to hurry. As we quickened our pace, I couldn't help but smile grimly. After all, we had homework to do, both the mundane kind and the kind that involved keeping cosmic horrors at bay. Just another day in the life of two teenagers who had seen beyond the veil and lived to tell the tale. And so, dear listeners of Silent Screams, remember this: the next time you walk down a quiet school hallway and feel a chill run down your spine, or catch a glimpse of something impossible in the corner of your eye, don't dismiss it. For in those moments, the whispers of other worlds might just be trying to tell you something. The question is, are you brave enough to listen? As weeks passed, life at Evergreen High seemed to return to normal. Students chatted about upcoming exams and weekend plans, oblivious to the cosmic horror that had nearly consumed them all. But for Lily and me, every day was a balancing act between our old lives and our new reality as secret guardians against the unknown. We started noticing things others didn't. Shadows that moved when they shouldn't. Whispers in empty rooms. The occasional flicker in the air, like reality itself was struggling to hold its shape. We kept these observations to ourselves, knowing that sharing them would only lead to disbelief or worse. One afternoon, as we were leaving our last class, Mr. Thompson approached us. My heart raced, remembering his monstrous form in the basement. But he looked perfectly normal now, smiling warmly as he spoke. "Alex, Lily, I hope you're both doing well after that unfortunate gas leak incident," he said, his eyes betraying no hint of the eldritch knowledge they once held. "I was wondering if you'd be interested in joining a new after-school club I'm starting. We'll be exploring some alternative scientific theories." Lily and I exchanged glances. Was this a trap? Or was Mr. Thompson, like us, aware of what had really happened? "What kind of theories, Mr. Thompson?" I asked cautiously. His smile widened slightly. "Oh, you know, the kind that push the boundaries of conventional understanding. Quantum mechanics, parallel universes, that sort of thing. I think you two would find it fascinating." We agreed to attend, more out of a need to keep an eye on him than genuine interest. That first meeting was tense, with Lily and I constantly on edge, waiting for tentacles to sprout or reality to tear open again. But nothing happened. It was just a normal, if slightly eccentric, science club. As we left the meeting, Lily grabbed my arm. "Alex, look," she whispered, pointing to a corner of the parking lot. There, partially hidden behind a dumpster, was a figure. It was tall and thin, its proportions slightly off. As we watched, it turned its head towards us, revealing a face that was smooth and featureless, save for a pair of glowing points where eyes should be. I blinked, and it was gone. "You saw that, right?" Lily asked, her voice shaking. I nodded, a chill running down my spine. They're still here, watching us. From that day on, our vigilance increased. We started keeping a journal of every strange occurrence, every unexplained sight or sound. We researched occult symbols and eldritch lore, preparing ourselves for whatever might come next. Our friends started to notice our changed behavior. We were more withdrawn, always whispering to each other, jumping at shadows. Jake, who had no memory of his transformation, confronted us one day at lunch. "What's going on with you two?" he demanded. "Ever since that gas leak, you've been acting weird. Are you on drugs or something?" I forced a laugh. "No, nothing like that. We're just working on a project. It's kind of intense. Jake didn't seem convinced, but he dropped the subject. As he walked away, I noticed a strange shimmer in the air around him, like heat haze. For a moment, I thought I saw something else walking in his place, something with too many limbs and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. I rubbed my eyes, and the vision was gone. But the fear remained. Nights became a torment. My dreams were filled with impossible geometries and creatures that defied description. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, certain that the shadows in my room were moving, reaching for me with tendrils of darkness. Lily wasn't faring much better. Her transformation during the incident had left its mark. Sometimes, when she was stressed or scared, her fingers would elongate slightly, becoming more tentacle-like. She learned to hide it with long sleeves and gloves, but the reminder of what we'd been through was always there. As the months wore on, we became adept at hiding our true experiences from the world. We laughed at the right moments, attended school events, and pretended that our biggest worry was college applications. But beneath it all, we were always watching, always waiting for the next sign that the barrier between worlds was weakening. It came on a night when the moon was full and red, hanging low in the sky like a bloated, bloody eye. Lily and I were in the school library, ostensibly studying for finals, but really researching ancient Sumerian texts for clues about interdimensional travel. A low, thrumming sound filled the air, making my teeth vibrate. Books began to fall from the shelves, their pages fluttering open to reveal texts that read and changed before our eyes. "It's happening again," Lily whispered, her eyes wide with fear and, "Was that excitement?" I nodded, already moving towards the door. "We need to get to the basement. Now." As we raced through the halls, the school seemed to shift and warp around us. Lockers melted into fleshy walls, pulsing with an alien rhythm. The floor became soft and yielding, like walking on living tissue. We burst into the basement to find Mr. Thompson standing before a hastily reconstructed version of the portal machine. His body was halfway through its transformation, tentacles writhing where his arms should be. "Ah, my star pupils," he said, his voice a chorus of inhuman tones. "I knew you'd come. Don't you see? We can't fight it. The merging of worlds is inevitable. Why not embrace it?" I felt a pull, an almost irresistible urge to agree. The knowledge, the power, it was all within reach. I looked at Lily and saw the same struggle in her eyes. For a moment, I wavered. What if he was right? What if fighting was futile? But then I remembered the terror, the loss of humanity we'd witnessed. I thought of our classmates, our families, blissfully unaware of the horrors that threatened to consume them. "No," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "We won't let this happen again." What followed was a battle that defied description. Reality itself seemed to bend and break around us as we fought against Mr. Thompson and the encroaching forces from beyond. Lily's partially transformed arms became an asset, allowing her to reach into spaces that shouldn't exist and disrupt the machine's workings. I found myself reciting incantations I didn't know I'd memorized, words of power that made the air crackle and the invading entities shriek in pain. As the portal began to collapse, Mr. Thompson made one last, desperate lunge for us. "You fools," he screamed, his form now more tentacle than human. "You're dooming us all to ignorance." I felt his tentacles wrap around my throat, felt my consciousness start to fade. But then Lily was there, her eyes blazing with an inner light. She placed her hand on Mr. Thompson's writhing form and spoke a single word in a language I didn't recognize. There was a flash of blinding light, and then silence. When my vision cleared, the basement was back to normal. No flesh-covered walls, no portal machine. Mr. Thompson lay unconscious on the floor, fully human once more. Lily helped me to my feet, both of us shaking with exhaustion and residual fear. "Is it over?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. I looked around, trying to sense any lingering presence from the other side. There was something, a faint echo, a whisper just at the edge of hearing. But it was fading, retreating back to whatever realm it had come from. "For now," I replied. "But I don't think it will ever be truly over." As we made our way out of the school, supporting each other with every step, I realized that our lives had been forever changed. We had peered behind the veil of reality and survived, but at a cost. We would always be different, always be watching for the next incursion. The sun was rising as we emerged from the school, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. It was beautiful, ordinary, and for a moment, I let myself believe that everything could go back to normal. But then I saw it, a flicker in the air, a momentary glimpse of something vast and unknowable just beyond our reality. And I knew that our watch had only just begun. As we walked home, exhausted but alive, I couldn't help but wonder, how many others were out there, standing guard against the darkness? How many other schools, other towns, had their own secret guardians? The whispers in the hallways of Evergreen High might have been silenced for now, but the echoes of what we'd experienced would resonate forever. And in those echoes, in the spaces between what is seen and unseen, our true education had only just begun. So remember, dear listeners, the next time you walk down a quiet school corridor and feel a chill run down your spine, or catch a glimpse of something impossible in the corner of your eye, don't dismiss it. For in those moments, you might just be brushing against the edges of a reality far vaster and more terrifying than you could ever imagine. And who knows? You might just be the next guardian chosen to stand against the encroaching darkness. Sleep tight and keep watching the shadows. This is Silent Screams, signing off for now.